Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back, DCS Crew. How you been, man? I gotta tell you, Bestech has always been a company that has really earned my respect. I've had a couple of knives that have, done some time in my pocket, so to say. They've been fantastic, and they have some really, really good designers. And they also have a really cool cat that does their customer service in the US. If you haven't checked it out, go ahead and reach out to them if you have a knife and you might have an issue with Bestech. He will reach out to you, and that is none other than my boy Eric from the Outer Limitless YouTube channel. Go ahead and reach out to him if you have any problems with Bestech, because he's actually running their customer service out of the United States right now. Really, really cool cat. Does a lot of work, and he's actually the guy that is the reason why I started DCS. So be sure to go ahead and reach out to him if you have any issues with Bestech knives, and he'll go ahead and sort you out. Now, today I have a knife here sent to me by Bestech, and it's a little different from most reviews because most of reviews are going to be stuck with like tabletop stuff. This one is not. This is an Ostap Hel design, and you know him from things like the Tulip, the Metamorph, the Ivy, which I've recently actually reviewed. And they went ahead and they sent this over to me. This is the Hedron. And now this version, it's model number BFK02D. And that designates that it is the micarta variant of this particular knife. And I say that it's different because this is not going to be strictly a tabletop review. This is going to be my feedback after actually putting this to use, for something more than just opening, documents and, slicing open, cardboard and basically filing down cardboard to basically little strips. And I wanted to make that distinction because, I'll get a little bit into it after the intro. Let's just go ahead and roll that, and then we will get into the Bestech Hedron from Ostap Hel. Thanks. Hey, welcome back, guys. All right, so now that we got the pleasantries out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get this. Throw that to the side. And show you the knife du jour. And in this case, it is the Bestech Knives Hedron. This is a fixed blade knife. This version is right here. You can see both sides. Okay, we have a stonewash blade. It is an Ostap Hel design. This is D2 steel. You have the Bestech Knives logo right here. And I just wanted to go ahead and show you the full profile of the blade, all sides. This is the spine, both presentation sides, and the bottom. Okay, now as far as size is concerned, I want to just go ahead and do this so you can see more or less how big it is compared to some other folders that I actually use normally. It's actually not the biggest knife. I want to say that the overall length on this is just over 8 inches. It's like 8 1/4. This here, actually I'll put it on this side because I can lay my knives flat and show you the difference here. Okay, so this is the Hedron. This is the CJRB, the Dylan Mallory Centros. Okay, this is the Concept Knives Cryo. This is the full-size version, and as you can see, they're all pretty close to the size of the Hedron. So if you're used to a knife of this size, this is actually going to be a fixed blade that is more, your speed and more your game. It's small enough for you to be able to go ahead and strap onto a pack or even have at your side with a good Kydex sheath, but it's big enough to do things that something like a neck knife wouldn't do. It's not going to be too big and bulky, but it's going to be able to do things like feather sticks, do some yard work in, and put a little bit more effort into because of the style of the materials and just the overall the usefulness of this blade than some of the smaller and larger designs. I think this is a really good sweet spot for a fixed blade design that is going to be introduced, that is being introduced through Bestech. I mean, and I'm just going to go ahead and get this out of the way and just address the elephant in the room. There are a lot of reservations about having a Chinese fixed blade. And the reason being is because the US knife market is saturated with good quality companies that issue, different iterations and different sizes and blade steels and even, blade scales like handles, you have Essie, you have Ontario Knife Company, you have K-Bar, you have Buck Knives. There's a lot of companies that have been really producing quality fixed blades, before you and I, our parents and our grandparents needed a knife to be able to pick up and use, whether it was a folder or a fixed blade, but particularly a fixed blade. Now, the thing is, because of that, there are a lot of reservations that come with, seeing that, oh, okay, a Chinese company, is coming out with a fixed blade. Well, the truth is, within these past couple of years, the stigma of, Chinese manufacturing and quality assurance has slowly started to go on the wayside. I mean, there's still companies like MTech, for example, that are producing, designed in USA folders in 448 steel that, they stink, man, and it's cool for the mall cops, and the tactical, mall ninjas and people who don't know about knives and want to go ahead and get their first knife and don't have anybody like us who, really understands what concept is for, an actual decent, good knife that's at a budget price. So they end up with that. I did. That was me. I ended up with an MTech Tonto that probably cost like $14. It sucked, but it got me to learn, a bit about companies, and then it got me to learn a little bit more about what basically turned into running this channel. Now, going back to this, Chinese companies have really earned their place in the global market with regards to knives. I mean, you have companies like CJRB, you have companies like, the aforementioned Concept, which actually was a derivative of, a former designer from Kaiser. Okay, that's Kim Ning, by the way. And then you have companies like Civivi and We, who have really, set the bar high for, knives, whether it's, fixed blades like the Mike Emler design that I reviewed not too long ago, or even folders, Ben from BladeHQ, formerly of BladeHQ, came out with the Banter, through We Knife Company. Fantastic knife. Ostap Hel has actually, released a few through We Knife Company, and there's a lot of other foreign and U.S. knife makers that have really invaded these companies that are producing these knives. Ostap Hel is one of them. He's somebody that I really hold in high regards because I've had his folders and I've used his folders for quite some time. He does standard folders. He does like the Moat. He does front flippers like the Metamorph, the Tulip, the Ivy. And now he has something that's actually very reminiscent of, some designs that he had issued through Real Steel. And that's this guy right here. Now, this, I can't stress it enough. It's something that when I got it, it actually surprised me quite a bit. Okay. Luckily, what I have actually been doing with fixed blades is been using them in my backyard for a lot of, projects and even just, getting rid of, plants and plant overgrowth and even other things that are growing in my backyard. As an example, there's a stump that was actually, there was a tree that was chopped down and ground to basically ground level and, by the previous owner of my house. And what they did was, instead of completely grinding the stump out, they actually got some zoysia grass and then they basically put a layer of zoysia grass over it. It's been growing great, but the problem is that while the tree is decomposing slowly under, the grass inside of the soil, what's happening is there are mounds of mushrooms that are just popping up everywhere. These really puffy mushrooms, these different types. And to be completely honest, it really wouldn't be a big deal to me, but, this house is a house for dogs. And, when my dogs go outside, I keep the everything that I can from them eating it. They can chase the squirrels, they can, run around and destroy the bones and the balls and the treats and stuff that I give them. But, I don't want them to eat something that they're not supposed to, because I don't want anything to happen to them. And to be completely honest, vet bills are not cheap. Let's be honest. So there's a lot of mushrooms that grow in my backyard. And in turn, what I will do is I'll take a fixed blade, and for the most part, it's a smaller fixed blade like this, and I'll go through and I will pluck them out. I'll carve out, you know, the mushrooms, and I'll go ahead and get rid of them. Recently, because of the weather being like I guess a transition from summer to autumn, and going into hurricane season, there's been a lot of overgrowth of the mushrooms. And I haven't been able to get to it. I've been really busy with work and, you know, stuff for, you know, on the personal side of things. Unfortunately, I had a couple, you know, family members that have, you know, come to hard times or pass that I discussed in another video. But moving on, there was serious growth. And then they sent this to me. And they're like, yo, we really need you to go ahead and use this and let me know what you think. And I'm like, oh, I have the perfect use for this. So I went to town on the mushrooms that are in my backyard, and I swear to God, it's like one of those, it's like Dr. Pimple Popper, you know, like I went in and I just cut a swath throughout all of the mushrooms that were in my backyard, and I left that, you know, that area like scorched earth. There isn't a single like fungus in that area. It's all like either, you know, areas that have been carved out with that you know used to formerly house mushrooms, you know, or it's just grass where it's supposed to be. And this was a really good knife. Now, granted, there are a couple of things that I did want to bring to your attention about this knife. Number one, this is, you know, being that it's D2, this is a semi-stainless tool steel. Now, previously in doing what I was doing, the fixed blade that I use is from a US knife maker that runs out of, I believe, Olean, New York. It's not K-Bar, but they use a 1095 blade that has been coated. Micarta handles as well. Great knife. And it's a fixed blade that I typically go to for these particular tasks. I'll do it once or twice, and then I'll go and I'll sharpen it. 1095 sharpens pretty quickly. Boom, and I'll keep going. I tried it this time with this one. Now, the other knife that I have also has micarta, but it has like a canvas micarta, and the handles were a bit rougher than this. Okay, it's also a wider knife at the, you know, the knife scales in the hand. Okay, and it just feels like it's a wider knife overall. It's a little bit shorter here, but it's a little wider overall. So I compared that particular knife, which, okay, I'll go ahead and tell you, it's the Ontario Knives Rat number 3, and I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can put a picture here so you can see what I'm talking about. But in any case, this particular knife, it is slimmer. It has a slimmer profile. It does not have a coated blade. This is a stonewashed D2, which is a semi-stainless blade, and it's going to last a lot longer edgewise because of the fact that you know, it's proven that D2, when heat treated correctly, as opposed to 1095, you know, heat treated correctly, even if it's Essie's Crovan, you know, 1095, it will outperform 1095. Now, granted, that comes with the caveat that it's going to take, you know, longer once it's been doled out to you know, bring back that edge. So you're going to get longer edge retention, you're going to get better corrosion resistance, and you know, it's going to be a tougher knife overall, I mean, with D2. So that's one positive that I have, you know, with this particular knife. This also has a really cool thing down here if you choose to go ahead and use a lanyard in your knives. But personally, I mean, with the fact that it is, you know, big enough even for my chunky hands, I didn't need to use I didn't need to use a lanyard with this. It'd be great for something with a shorter handle. You know, you can go ahead and use that and kind of like move back a little bit so that you can get some, you know, more control on the blade. But in this particular case, it was perfectly fine. Now, granted, I used gloves, and typically when I use gloves, see if I still have them around here, I'll use something, you know, from Mechanics. Like these particular ones are my tactical gloves that I use when I go out shooting or to the range. But I do have Mechanics gloves. I have several of them, and one of them I happen to use the originals for just outdoor work, and I use them with this particular knife. And I will say, The micarta handles are nice, but if I owned this particular knife, I would tell you that I would either choose the G10 option, which is actually a little bit cheaper than this. And last I checked from BladeHQ, this is going for just under 120. I think it's 119. And the standard G10 model is actually going for just over 100. I think it's 102. They got a couple of different options, but this is the only one that I saw that is in micarta, and it's a little bit more expensive. So this is the premium one. I would actually forego the premium for the G10 for the simple fact that I feel like it was grippier if it would have been G10. Okay, now that's not to say that this wasn't grippy, because once it started to get wet, you could start to feel it get a little bit more tactile. I'll give it that. But if you own something from somebody like, say, SE or Ontario Knife Company, you know, or if you own, say, a folder from, say, Giant Mouse, you know, the Nimbus, the Grand that I showed in a video not too long ago, or even the Biblio, which I love. The micarta on that, oh, perfect. If they'd have it on this, I would not have any issues at all with, you know, thinking that this might actually slide out of my hand if I happen to, you know, actually have to apply force to something. So I was a little bit more careful with this because the micarta felt smoother, okay? And granted, it looked a lot darker because it was oiled upon delivery. All right. Since I used it, what I did was I washed the knife really well. I scrubbed down the scales to make sure any impurities were taken out, and as a result, what it did was it lightened up the scales a bit. It doesn't come like this. It comes with a nice, even brown, rich color scheme on it that is akin to having the scales oiled prior to sending it out. Okay. So there's that. Okay. One other thing that I want to point out is. And this is something that not a lot of companies do. And this is something that I actually learned from Eric from the Outer Limitless channel because he uses a hell of a lot more fixed blades than I do for, you know, outdoor stuff. I use fixed blades all the time in the kitchen, but not so much outdoors. I tend to stick to maybe one or two options, and he showed me this. Now, if you look at the blade, especially here in the spine, okay, you're gonna notice that these scales, you know, they're contoured, and when they kind of go this way, you'll notice that they don't completely end flush with the blade itself, which is full tang, by the way, okay, all the way to the front. And the reason why is because they have actually meant to design the scales to fit more of like kind of I don't want to say an inlay because it's not, but it's shallow to kind of keep the tang sticking out. And what they've done with the tang is they've smoothed the tang on all sides. So here at the bottom, on the base here, and on the spine, this has all been smoothed out. In fact, this has been smoothed out too. So you're not going to get any sharp edges anywhere here. Okay, that's something that even companies like Spyderco tend to have an issue with, you know, on their folding knives that you're going to pay a premium on with these, and that are US made, by the way. So something to consider when it comes to actual design aesthetic. That's something that I found to be extremely well done with this particular knife. I liked it a lot. Now, as far as jimping, you know, to kind of keep your hand in place, remember what I said about you know, using it and being careful, because I was you know, under the assumption that it would probably slip in my hands. There's jimping here in the back in two spots, right here and right here, depending on where your thumb is going to be resting, whether it's, you know, closer to where the scales are, okay, and a little bit closer up here to where, you know, if you need to apply pressure for more precise cuts. And then you also are going to have jimping right here, which actually adheres to this kind of meat area by your pinky, okay. And obviously when you are using it on this end, you have the jimping that goes right into the meat here, and then you have this jimping that goes onto your index finger, okay? So when you have a reverse grip, it is gonna be like that. Now, you have a really good point on this, and I like the fact that they use the drop point design. They don't use any recurve, they don't have any, you know, fancy schmancy stuff. You know, drop point is an excellent go-to blade style when you are outside and you're doing stuff like bushcraft or even just general gardening, or, you know, having to do things like that. Even for an EDC blade, if you're going to have this, you know, strapped on a bug out bag or something like that, you can use this for a variety of tasks. Okay. And like I said before, it's not a very large knife, and I'll show it again next to the CGRB knife central so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. I mean, it's virtually almost the same size as the Centros. In fact, I think the Centros edges it by just a hair, you know, on here, because it does have larger scales. So, okay, so this is the Kydex that comes with this particular knife. You actually get a Kydex sheath with every Hedron that's actually sent out. And for right now, if I'm not mistaken, they have this in G10 with a satin blade, a stonewash blade, and they have an orange one with a black DLC coated blade. They are all D2 steel, okay? And they all come shipped with this sheath, which I believe stays black across the board, okay? So as far as retention, okay, I've even seen this with you know, sheath makers, and granted, they're probably not very good sheath makers, but it is what it is. There usually is some type of give when you get you know, Kydex or Bolteron, you know, or you know, anything like that. There's some type of give with the knife, so you're gonna hear like a clicking, you know, a click-clack kind of sound with the sheath. Now I want you to see if you hear any clicking or clacking. I'm gonna be real quiet. There is nothing. This sheath, the retention, is literally perfect, okay? It is literally perfect. Now, there are a few gripes, though, that I do have with this. But before I get to that, I will say that, you know, the point to be able to go ahead and what they've done was they flare this side, which is very common in sheaths, to be able to go ahead and have your thumb placement point, to be able to just use it to click out the knife and to just place it back in. I mean, that right there, the retention is perfect. And another thing that they've done, which is something that you see some companies do and some companies not, if they are a company that understands about knife sheaths, or they get a specific request by the knife maker who has designed fixed blades quite a bit, they will go ahead and design it with this little hole here at the bottom, and that is not an imperfection. What they do is they purposely do that because if there's any moisture that is inside the sheath, whether it's from the knife coming in after being used, or just, you know, being out in the elements and say sweat, grime, you know, some kind of liquid like rain, that sort of thing gets in there, or if there's even condensation in the sheath. When you have a carbon steel or even a semi-stainless steel like D2 inside of a sheath that has that kind of condensation, it's going to go ahead and allow a much more rapid progression of corrosion and rusting for the knife itself. And that's not an environment that you want these kind of knives to be in. So aside from keeping them oiled, you know, and telling you that, you know, you have to care for your blades, they go the extra mile and they put this. And this is kind of like a ventilation for all of that. So it allows the area inside to be able to dry and any excess to leak out. So I thought that was a really cool setup. It's just a little dot, you know, a little dot that they can drill in. And I can actually show now that the blade is in, you can see it. And when it's out, see, and I'll show it once it's in. There it is, okay? So that's pretty cool. Now, they have rivets that have been pinned on, let me see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 different points for the rivets. This is great because you can actually use some paracord, some 440 paracord. Actually, excuse me, I didn't mean 440, but I meant 550. Give me a second, because I'm gonna get the paracord off of this. I do actually have some here. All right, and this is your standard paracord that you would see, you know, just for use for different kinds of knives. You can actually thread it through different ways, and you can actually set this up onto a pack or even onto your neck. You can set this for a variety of things. You can set it to, you know, just to hang off of a certain area. You know, I'll just keep it like that, like this. And then you can also use it as a means to be able to go ahead and open the knife, you know, present the knife, excuse me, unsheath it, okay? So I thought that was a pretty cool setup. It allows you to be able to do that from a variety of positions. You can do it from the side, you can do it from the top. Typically, they will do it from the top. But aside from that, you have these 3 holes here, which the spacing is not symmetrical, and that's something that I don't really like. If you're going to use something like a tech lock, that is something that you kind of want to consider, because if you're going to want to have the tech lock angled at a certain way, or if you want to go ahead and set it at three retention points on a tech lock, it's going to be a bit of an issue, because obviously these rivets, they're not set correctly, but two of them are. And what they've done is they've set the actual retention, this kind of oh man, I don't even know how to explain it, but this belt loop to be able to go ahead and thread into most belts. And I say most belts because this is going to be a bit of a con for me. Okay, this one, typically when you see this is going to be like a single clip style that has like a clip at the bottom, and what you do is, you put the sheath on and then you clip this, over your belt. The problem is this is closed here at the bottom, okay? So it doesn't allow you to clip it over your belt. So that's a con for me. And a second con is the width of this particular, this loop that is on this attachment. This loop is actually too thin for most EDC belts. Like I run a Blue Alpha Gear EDC belt. I mean, I have 3 of them. They work fantastic. I use them all the time. I would not be able to use this sheath on the belt, not necessarily just because of the width of the belt, but you also have to consider the buckle. And this does not consider the buckle. This is just this. If I were to buy this knife, I would have to get a tech lock, or I'd have to find a different way of using the attachment points here, to be able to go ahead and keep it on me, or keep it dangling, or whatever you choose to do with this particular knife. This thing, I mean, this is crap, but this sheath is great. The only thing is, I will knock off a little bit because of these holes. I'm not really a big fan of the fact that they are not spaced correctly, because if you're going to use a tech lock, which is the universal, kind of retention device for this particular style of fixed blade, yeah, it's just, you're only going to be able to use these two. You're not going to be able to use these two up here. Just my 2 cents. The good thing about it is that you can remove these. You can take this off, and then you can go ahead and put your own retention device on there. So if you choose to go ahead and have, a dangler placed onto this, or, by your own means, because you're going to have to find a way to go ahead and get it on here. But I would use, or tech lock, which is what I would use. That would be my gripe. This is just crap. You could use this this Kydex with no problem whatsoever. Okay, so I am a big fan of that. Now, the only thing that I have not done yet with this knife is sharpen it. I don't know the blade angle that it's at. I'm gonna go ahead and ask Eric, who is over at Bestech now, if he knows about the blade angle, so I can go ahead and set it on my KME and bring it back up to spec. What I will probably do is another video seeing, these scales removed, so you can see the inside of the blade. I'm going to clean it really well, have it sharpened, see if I can clean the scales, kind of bring that color back a little bit, maybe with some mineral oil or something like that, just a very light, coating of mineral oil, so it kind of absorbs, and it kind of like takes that sheen and that color again, because it's a beautiful brown when you first get it. Or just let it naturally patina with use. I mean, whatever. But yeah, those are the things that I have yet to take care of. I'm probably going to use that for another video. Which, speaking of which, now that I have this out, I might as well go ahead and see which Torx bit actually works with this particular knife scale, with this knife. Okay, so typically you'll see T8s, and that's what we want to shoot for, because T6, it's just a nightmare when it comes to taking off the screws. Now, there are openings, as you see here, there are slots for Torx on both sides, on the top and bottom, if I'm not mistaken. So you do have, those on each side. So I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna see which side you need to go ahead and remove it. So first off, let's go ahead and see if it's T8. Okay, let's go with T8. And it is T8. Okay, that's great, because T6, I can't stand them. They strip so easily, and you get soft steel with these screws. It's just a pain. So let me see if I can go ahead and, okay, this might be a problem, because it seems that on one side, when you try to unscrew it, the other side is free spinning, excuse me. So that is not good. I'm gonna probably find a way to go ahead and take that off and do a video on it, but I do wanna go ahead and just kind of confirm that it is indeed a T8 Torx. You are gonna need a T8 Torx bit driver for this. You're probably just gonna need two, one on each side to kind of just go ahead and take it off. I have a, I have a Torx, excuse me, a WeHot bit driver, and I even have the one from, Austin from Kerr Knives that I can use. So I'll probably use one of those two when I go ahead and disassemble this. But keep that in mind. You are going to need at least two T8 bit drivers and bits to be able to go ahead and remove this because of the fact that this is free spinning. Okay, that is something I just figured out. So overall, I mean, for the price, for what you get here, and for the recent introduction to their customer service team, I mean, in all honesty, this is kind of like, this is the dark horse of the fixed blades, guys. You really might want to take a look at this. I mean, aside from the issue here with the rivets, this thing, which is, I mean, it's absolute dog shit. I'm gonna be honest. This is just the worst attachment that you can put. That's the only really glaring bad thing. I mean, I can work around this because at least there's two. And the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of, there being, this being as narrow as it is, I can still use it, but it's not just my favorite. I mean, I really can't find too much more fault on it, I mean, the micarta, I can work with it, I can sand it down, and they have a G10 variant if you want to get it, and you'll save a little bit of money on that. It comes with a sheath already that is actually good. The retention is fantastic, okay? The retention is fantastic, but this attachment sucks. And, you're going to need at least two Torx bits to be able to work on it. That is basically it. I mean, having said that, you saw the work that I put in with this particular knife in the backyard. I literally had a Publix bag filled to the brim with, mushrooms and fungus that I had taken out from the backyard with the help of this guy. So, yeah, I'll probably do another video sharpening it, disassembling it, cleaning it, and getting it ready for the next person. But in the meantime, this is the Bestech Knives Hedron, the fixed blade from Bestech Knives, the Ostap Hel design. This is the upgraded version with micarta handles, D2 stonewash steel, beautiful swedge up here, jimping, very well placed. You do have a bit of a raise on the spine here. You can probably see here, it kind of flares up here towards the front, which really helps with the pressure on your thumb when you're using the jimping, and the jimping works extremely well on both, whether it's this one right here, which locks into this here in place, or in the back that actually really locks in there. Overall, I mean, I gotta tell you, this is a really badass knife, and if I owned this knife, I would have no qualms continuing to use it. I really, really like this. I might ask them if all this is done, what they're going to end up selling this for, because I probably would be interested in picking it up just for myself. So, yeah, that said, thank you so much for watching. This is going to be the first in a bit of a line of Bestech stuff coming, man. I got to tell you, I got a couple of things coming that are really badass, including this folder right here that I've been EDCing. This is the Eye of Ra. I can't really tell you too much about this yet. This has been out for a little while, but this is blowing my budget mind. I mean, this is just fantastic. Deep carry, deep two. It's got those blue anodized liners, and obviously there have been relief holes that have been cut into the scales to kind of reduce the weight and provide some kind of functionality and aesthetics in the look of like an eye. This is the Eye of Ra from Bestech, amongst a whole bunch of others. Can't really let the cats out of the bag yet because we are talking about the Hedron. Guys, you have been awesome. I mean, if you're sticking around to the end of the video, dude, you guys rock. Go ahead and sound off below what your favorite fixed blade is, and if you've ever used a fixed blade from a Chinese company and how that ended up turning out. I'm pretty sure I know what the outcome is going to be, but you might have a different outcome using this knife. And if you have any issues, you are going to get way better customer service now that Eric is helping them out. Now, it may not be, the fantastic customer service you get from, Essie, you know. But then again, you know, we're talking about a company that is working hard to be able to earn your trust when it comes to having something reliable like a fixed blade. You cannot go wrong with one of Ostap Hel's designs. And if you've ever seen how keen Eric is when it comes to working with knives, designing knives, testing knives, that sort of thing, if you haven't, go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. If that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. That he will do his best to kind of stand by his products, you know, these products through Bestech, and he will do everything he can to get you back on the road to using it again, or do what he can to go ahead and put a knife in your hand that you will be satisfied with. So that being said, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, sound off below or reach me at dailycarrysolutions.com. There is a contact page there where you can go ahead and message me or reach me on Instagram at Daily Carry Solutions. Guys, just remember, no matter what you choose to EDC, whether it's a folder or a fixed blade, just remember, if you EDC, think of DCS. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time, hopefully with some more Bestech. But in the meantime, you take care, guys. Peace.